Oh yes, the shared experience of womanhood and childbirth that transcends anything. Get out of here with that nonsense. Oh my gosh, you guys. 28 years later, went to go see it last night with my brother and my nephews. So my setup is different here. I'm up in New Jersey, so excuse me. Things just aren't quite the same for me here. I was looking forward to this, and I'll say from the start, I liked it, but I didn't love it. There was a little bit too much wrong with it for me to fully embrace, to fully love. The first movie, it will remain the standout. That film is really good. I love so much about that movie. It's perfect for post-apocalyptic, zombie, it's just so many things that are right with the first movie. But 28 years later does not compare favorably to 28 days later. And I'll touch on some of the reasons why. The basic synopsis is, well, it starts off with these people, I think it was the Scottish Highlands, and these kids are watching Teletubbies, and that's when the rage virus takes over that area, and it shows this kid. There's a focus on this little kid. And then that scene ends, and then it says 28 years later. So there's been this jump forward in time. And that story picks up with the main character of, excuse me, my nephew tromping around upstairs. That story picks up with the main character, who is Spike. And the child actor who played him did a very good job. I don't remember if I've seen him in anything else, but he was fantastic in here. He was very good. All of the acting in here was very good. I have no real complaints about that at all. So anything negative I say about this film is not a reflection on the performance of the actors in any way. So basically in this story, Spike and his father are going to go out to the mainland because Spike is old enough now. He has to, prove his manhood or whatever. He's got to kill some of these infected or whatever. And his mother, played by Jodie Comer, something is wrong with her. She's been bedridden for a while. She has these spells where she's not quite, almost seems like she's got Alzheimer's or something, but it's not that. And she's been this way for a bit. And so it's causing problems in the marriage and things like that. And she'll have moments of lucidity and then moments where she's just so completely out of it and she doesn't even know what's going on or who she's talking to and things like that. So Spike and his father go out. They have their first night out on the mainland, or Spike has his first night out on the mainland. And then they find out about this character, this doctor guy in the distance, and Spike decides that he wants to try to help his mother because there's a doctor over there now that he knows about. That's the basic premise of what happens in this story. There are some other dynamics too, like the relationship between Spike and his father, and then things that Spike finds out about his father that are very disappointing and anger him quite a lot. I'm going to try to keep this review as spoiler-free as possible, by the way, though there was that part in the movie that I referenced in my opening that was absolutely terrible, probably the worst part of the entire movie. It was significantly bad enough that it made me downgrade this film from what might have been a 3.5 or higher rating out of 5 to a 3. That's a significant downgrade because of this one stupid ass scene. I kid you not, it was so bad. Some other things I liked about this before I get on to that. It had some solid elements to it. Like I said already, strong acting, effective tension. There were some scenes that were very tenseful, as my daughter says. The gritty sort of visuals, the look, the way the cinematography is done, and the grain. It felt like it was grainy, like how the first 28 Days Later was. So it reminded me in a lot of ways of that first movie, just the tone and the style. It's like it's trying to recapture that feeling from the first film. And I felt like in that regard, it did pretty well. Fortunately, though I did go into this knowing that there's supposed to be a conclusion or another part to this, from coming out in January, from what I understand, there is no huge cliffhanger. I was afraid that there might be, which was going to be super annoying, but there's not a huge cliffhanger. The main storyline itself gets resolved in this movie, but there is the setup to the continuation of the story with these other characters. So that's kind of how it ends. And that particular ending was a little wild because some people, I don't think they really fully understand the symbolism of what these characters that are shown there mean. Some people, and myself included, actually, were thinking that what we were seeing was kind of reminiscent of things like Power Rangers and stuff like that. And there's a very specific reason for that thought process. It has to do with when the world ended and the people who were kids at this time, the things that were very popular, Teletubbies and Power Rangers. So I do feel like that on the surface level, it is supposed to kind of be something like that, but there is a much darker element to it involving a notoriously bad person who's very well known in the UK. So I'll leave it at that. You guys can dig a little bit deeper on it if you're interested. So those are mostly the pros that I have with this film. The cons. There were moments in this movie that I felt the characters made very poor decisions. There was this plot point that involved what this kid wants to do to help his mother. While I understand his desire to help his mother, this child is living in a time where he is fully aware of the dangers in the mainland. So a decision he makes that moves the plot in this direction, to me, it wasn't convincing enough. I didn't buy into it. I was thinking, you stupid kid. Like, yeah, he's a kid and kids can be stupid, but he's also a kid that lives in this time, this post-apocalyptic time for the UK. Basically, the rest of the world is just fine. It's the UK that's been quarantined off. Why the hell would you even entertain this idea given the condition that is going on with your mother? That just makes no sense to me at all. So I wasn't fully on board with the rationale, or I understood the rationale. I wasn't fully on board with the writing of that part of the story. There were other times where they would neglect to kill an infected that was right there they could very easily kill, and they didn't. Why? Especially given the context of the whole reason for Spike and his father going to the mainland so they could kill infected. Made no sense. There are also other things that, little tiny things, and some of this stuff is really minor because this happens quite a bit in films, but there's a scene where these characters are walking along. There's three characters and one is kind of ahead of them and the others are a little bit back. They're not far behind though. And then the person ahead runs off in the direction of something that they see. And then suddenly they're just apparently very, very far away from the people behind them when right before they weren't, because it takes the people behind this person a good while before they get to where the first person has gone. And that kind of stood out to me as a little annoying. It's just like, that was aggravating. Of course, the plot had to go in this direction. This character had to go here without being interfered with by the other people behind them. But still, it's another example of me not buying into the way the narrative flowed in this particular moment. And then also the character played by Ralph Fiennes. He's very eccentric. He's gone a little bit cray-cray, not dangerous, just he's a little cray-cray. And that's where the whole thing with the mountain of comes in. It doesn't quite mean exactly what you think it means when you look at the poster. When you find out what this is about, it's actually a pretty respectful sort of symbolic thing that's going on in this with this tower of, but I didn't feel like it landed for me either. Now, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that narrative plot point didn't work so well either. And then the childbirth scene. I won't spoil it, but I saw absolutely nothing logical or sensible or rational or positive at all about that particular scene, considering the characters involved in that scene. It was so cringe and so eyeball roll inducing. My eyes were just rolling so hard, they about went in the back of my head. I could not believe what I was watching. It was so bad, it made my skin get chills. You know the feeling I'm talking about when something is so god-awful that you just get chills because that's the only physical reaction you're capable of. It's just, it was terrible. It was terrible, especially considering the environment these people are living in. And I know why this stupid ass moment was put in there. It was a plot device used to move the story along a certain way, but Lord have mercy, what was used to get that plot moving as a result of this was just flimsy as it was terrible. And also, I know there's this messaging about womanhood and the shared experience of womanhood and how it just can transcend anything. No. Not in this environment, not in this world that they're living in. Absolutely not. It was so It was so god-awful. And that moment alone, all these other things that I mentioned, they're nothing compared to this moment. And yes, there can be a movie that's fairly solid, but there will be a moment in the movie that is so shit-tastically awful that it just yanks the rating down. It's not enough to make me hate this movie, because I do think if you're fans of the first two, it's worth watching. It's not the worst film I've ever seen. It's just, that was a huge misstep, and it was very bad. Very, very bad. And nobody will convince me otherwise. In conclusion, like I said, not terrible, but it's definitely a downgrade from 28 Days Later, even from 28 Weeks Later, in my opinion. It's been a while since I've seen 28 Weeks though, so, you know, maybe maybe I should have watched it before, but I still don't think that this film is on the same level of even the second movie. And some people like the second movie more than the first. I thought this story was going to go in a completely different direction, and it didn't. So, you know, we'll see what happens in the second one. Like I said, if you enjoy the other movies, I think you'll probably enjoy this-ish. You might be extremely disappointed, so I'll just forewarn you right now, go in with pretty low expectations. Don't go in super hyped, because there's been a ton of disappointment in this film with a lot of people that I've seen talking about it on social media and stuff. I went in expecting that I would like it, but I didn't have this humongous level of expectation, so I feel like it landed with me about as well as it could land for someone who goes in not expecting super high quality. I don't know. Yeah, the first film, it's still, like a lot of films in a series of movies, it still retains top spot. So it's kind of a mixed bag for me. Don't hate it, don't love it. I guess that's about as much as I can say right now about 28 Years Later. You guys might have already checked it out by the time this review goes up. I am a little late getting to it. Saw it on Friday night because of my travel plans, so I'm curious to know what you guys think about it. Anyway, that's it for this one, you guys. Adios.